Good evening. Good evening. How you guys doing out there? This is Mike Mellon. I'm back. Soberheadz podcast, one day at a time, where we share our experience, strength, and hope. And it's my pleasure to introduce my guest tonight. I have Mike in the building. Mike here to share his experience, hope, his strength, experience, and hope. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, how are you, Mike? Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for coming on, man. And I knew Mike for a while. You know what I'm saying? And I like his program, and I think his story can inspire a couple people. So, Mike, let's have it, brother.
All right. Thanks for having me again, Mike. My name is Mike. I'm an addict and alcoholic. My sobriety date is 2/5/15. So I just celebrated 9 years a couple days ago.
Praise the Most High for that, brother.
Thank you.
Praise the Most High for that, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, it hasn't been easy. It's been very hard. For me to sit here and say that it's been easy, I'd be lying to you guys. It's been probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. I have two kids. One is 7 and one is 2. So you could do the math. That's about 9 years. So, God willing, they'll never, ever, ever have to see me use or drink or anything like that ever again. And they don't know what my life was like before that. You know what I mean? And that's the way I want to keep it, but there are a lot of things that I have to do in order to keep it that way. I got to go to meetings. I got to get a sponsor. I got to call my sponsor. I got to, help other people. I remember I had seen Mike a couple months ago and I told him about some commitments that I was doing. And he was the first person to say, yeah, man, I'll go every Sunday. I'll do whatever you need, and that's what the program's about. You know what I mean? It's about helping, the sick and suffering addict that doesn't know that there's another way to live, and I've been to about 25 rehabs, about maybe like 10 detoxes, probably like 10 halfway houses, 5 outpatients, and I only say that because if there's anybody watching this that thinks that they can't do it because it's been their 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th time, it's nonsense. You could do it. It's just a matter of if you're ready to do it, and if you're out there thinking that that you just can't get sober, you can't get clean, it's you got to do something different, man. You really do. You got to do something different, and it took me a while to actually realize that, and I remember my first rehab I went to in 2007, and I was there for 28 days. I said the right things. I did the right things. But when I got out, I basically knew I was going to use, what happened was I used and then wound up back in rehab, then stayed clean for a little bit, wound up back in rehab. But I just wasn't really ready to kind of turn my life over to my higher power, which is, it's like half God and half my father who passed away in 2007, that's it's really been, it's been a tough road, what I try to do on a daily basis is I try to just help the next addict, the next alcoholic, I have hard days and I have days that aren't so hard. But I just have to, I still take it a day at a time. Some days I take it an hour at a time, for me, like I was saying, I met Mike. I probably met you like a few years ago, right, Mike? Probably a few years ago. And I gravitated towards Mike because I seen what he was doing. I liked what he had to say when he shared. And you could tell just by the way he acts that he lives the program, doesn't just speak the program, right? Because that's what's important. It's actually what are we doing outside those doors of the meetings? What are we doing when we leave this podcast? What are we doing to help people? What are we doing to further our sobriety and recovery? And the commitments, man, they really help because they help you get outside yourself and they help you help other people. And you have people come up to you after the commitment, say, you really helped me. Can I get your number? stuff like that. And what they don't understand is, you're helping them probably more than they're helping you, and you're
100%.
helping, like the opposite, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
they're helping you more than you're helping them, and they don't really realize that, you know what I mean? And it just took a while for me to actually like understand, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. And, drugs are a big part of my story.
Yeah, you can share about drugs on here. We do both.
Yeah, drugs are a big part of my story. A lot of people out there, I'm sure, are struggling with drugs, and it's really bad, man, with the fentanyl and I know the heroin these days, man. It's cut with all kinds of stuff, and everybody's dying, man. It's really sad, man. It really is, I lost my cousin last year. He was 35, and he died of an overdose. He had about a year clean. He was doing the program, had about a year clean, got wrapped up with a girl again, and she basically took him back out. They found him. They found him unresponsive in his room of, I think it was his sober house, whatever it was. But the fact of the matter is this disease doesn't care if you have 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, or 100 years. Everybody's just an arm's length away from going back to, that miserable life we led, when we were out there drugging, and drinking. And, it's, I have a couple of guys that I help right now, and some of them call me, some of them don't, but the fact of the matter is, Mike, and I'm sure you agree with this, I can't want their recovery more than they do.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
100%.
If they don't want to call me, that's on them, man. I can't chase after them. I got too much. I got 2 kids. I got a wife. I got, bills. I got jobs. I don't have time to go chasing people. You know what I mean? If they got my number, they know where to find me. If and when they're serious, they'll give me a call, and maybe they need to go back out there. You know what I mean? For them to really comprehend, how serious this disease is. And
when did you first know that you had a problem?
I would say like in college, like. I was big into like cocaine and ecstasy and stuff, and I was like big into the club thing, and like I kind of thought I had a problem then, but I wasn't really sure. I thought maybe I was just partying in college, everybody.
Me
too.
You
know what I mean? Like I didn't really know, but like I think I kind of subconsciously knew, but like didn't want to like face the facts that probably I had a problem, and yeah, I graduated college in 4 years, somehow, and I partied every night. You know what I mean? And yeah, it was just. And then after college, I was 22 when my dad passed away, and that's when my drinking and drug use basically like spiraled out of control.
Yeah,
so,
I was
passed away from a heart attack. So
I had the same kind of experience. I partied hard. And then with the death of my wife, as you know, you heard my story a few times. That's when it just went somewhere else. You get what I'm saying? That's when that's when we, because I learned when I was in rehab that we only use for 2 reasons: pleasure seeking and pain avoidance. You know what I'm saying? Then it turned to doing it for both of them at that time. You get what I'm saying? Now it's like, whoa, like I gotta do this because I can't face what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yep. And this is, for people out there, we're not saying that this is an excuse. We're just saying that this is what led us to, it's spiraling out of control. You know what I mean? Because like I have 2 brothers and a sister, Mike, but they're not drug addicts or alcoholics. So they didn't go that road. They dealt with it the way they dealt with it, and I dealt with it the way I dealt with it, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way I went, the way they went, the way you went. And I don't know if you have any brothers or sisters or anything, but, it's everybody has their own path. You know what I mean? What did that bottom look like, that point to where you was like, that's it, man? The bottom this time probably was, so when I first met my girlfriend, which is my wife now, I only knew her for like a couple months. I remember it was Super Bowl Sunday in February 2015. It was February 2nd, I think it was. And so I think the Super Bowl was like a week earlier that year or whatever it is. And I was working delivering pizza. And then after that, I disappeared to a hotel. My phone died. And I was like doing drugs and hanging out with people. And she was looking for me. She couldn't find me. She called the cops. The cops came to the hotel because they tracked the GPS on my car. So they found me at the Marlboro Motor Lodge in Marlboro. And cops knocked on the door. We had all kinds of drugs. Tried to put them in the desk. You know, they came in. They didn't find anything. I don't know how. They didn't really look or anything. They just kind of were concerned. They were making sure that I was in there so they could just tell me to go home. You know, it was something like it was something crazy because 99 times out of 100 they would come in, you know, see what's going on in there, and they would probably arrest me because of all the drugs and stuff we had, you know. But for some reason they didn't. I can't tell you why. Like I don't know.
That was the most high. It was God, probably.
It was probably my higher power telling me that he's going to give me another shot, you know, and that's what happened, you know. And I remember it was like a few days before that. It was a few days, before that when you know, things were just crazy. And you know, my mom. It got to the point where I put my mom through a lot of hell, you know, and you know, it got to the point where I remember I was living with her and a while ago, and she had said to me, she found that I was using or whatever. I forgot. I think she gave me a urine test, and I think I failed. I don't remember exactly when, but you know, there was a point in the beginning, Mike, where she was just like, she would start screaming at me, get out, you know what I mean? You're not going to be doing this. But then at the end, Mike, I remember she just packed the bag, put it downstairs, and she was like, I just need you to leave. She's like, I have other kids in the house. I can't do this with you anymore. Real calmly, you know, and I remember she said something like, oh, I wish you were, I don't know if she said exactly this, but it was something along the lines of, like, I wish you were dead or something like that. It would just be so much easier. Like, you know, and that's what this disease and what I've done basically has brought, you know, my family to. Like, my mom said that to her own son because like she just couldn't take the hell and torture I was putting her through anymore.
Did it get to the point to where she really cut ties, or?
Yeah, it got to the point where she threw me out. I've lived in my car, homeless shelters, rehabs, all kinds of stuff, Mike. Yeah, it got to the point where she was just tired of you know, doing that. She said she wasn't gonna enable me anymore. And, I remember I was living in a homeless shelter in Long Branch, and it got to the point where she just didn't want to deal with it anymore, man. And she cut ties, and I didn't get, you know, I was sober for a little bit. Then I wound up going back, but she just finally cut ties. And this past time, I wound up checking myself into Riverview Medical Center. And I remember I was coming off like a brick a day habit or so, and you know, I always took Suboxone and all that other stuff, you know, to get off, you know, the drugs, and that's what the rehabs gave you. I remember when I first got into Riverview. They weren't going to take me because it wasn't really like a rehab. It was like more of a psych ward, you know, and if you're familiar with it, it's more of a psych ward, right? So the intake lady asked me all these questions, you know, I answered them all, and she's like, listen, we just can't let you in. Like, we don't, we don't have, like, you know, this isn't like a drug rehab or whatever. And she was like, you have to be suicidal or something like that, you know, for us to let you in. And I was like, well, I want to kill myself. Can you let me in now? He was like, yeah, we can let you in now. I'm like, all right. You know what I mean? So I was like, because you don't understand. If you don't understand addiction, you don't understand. If I leave here right now, I'm going to die. And she like kind of looked at me like I was crazy, you know, and but if you're an addict and you understand what that means, like, it meant like if I left there, like, I wasn't going to get clean. I was going to wind up killing myself, you know? And that's where it took me. Like, I just needed to just put myself somewhere and lock myself up where I couldn't get any drugs or anything. that's where it took for me. You know, I give a lot of people credit that get clean on the street and stuff like that, but I just couldn't do it. You know.
Yeah. I seen it in the when I be at the meetings and I hear people that say like they just came in and they just went to a couple meetings and then they just stopped. Like I give them a lot of credit because I needed to be separated from alcohol. I had to go somewhere and I had to learn and I had to get it out my system and I had to find God. When you went to those rehabs the first time, I mean all those times where it didn't work, did you suffer from comparing yourself instead of identifying with others?
Yeah, some of the times I would. You know, I would always compare, well, this guy lost a house, this guy lost his wife, this guy lost his kids, this guy got 3 DWIs. None of that stuff happened to me. This guy got arrested 6 times in 3 months. None of that stuff ever happened to me, you know. And so I was like, well, maybe I'm not that bad, you know what I mean? Maybe I could just do it. Maybe I could just sniff a couple pills, you know. And I remember the first time that I realized I was addicted, right? I remember I was delivering pizza with this kid and he was like, hey, you should try one of these. He's like, I'm like, well, what is it? He's like, it's a Perk 30, you know, and he's like, well, I was like, how does it make you feel? And he's like, well, it's, you know, it kind of just like chills you out. You know what I mean? And I remember I did like a half of one or whatever it was. And automatically I was addicted to the feeling, you know, I was addicted to it.
I heard that before.
Yeah, I was addicted to it, man. And then it was like a couple weeks after I found myself doing them like every few days, then every other day, then every day. And then one day I woke up and my stomach hurt, right? So I was like, maybe I just ate something or something like that. And then I said, let me just see something. I wound up calling my dealer, got pills, did the pills, and I instantly felt better. So I was like, wow, I'm addicted to these things. Like I need these things or I'm going to get sick. That's like when I knew that I was addicted to pills and I knew that I was in big, big trouble.
So now when you're dealing with the pills, like I heard from so many people, like they started out with the pills and then the pill habit becomes too expensive. So then they got to go to like heroin or stuff like that. Was the case with you?
Yeah, that was the case with me, Mike. It started with the pills. They were like $10, $12, $15. Then they went to $20. Then they became $30. And then they became even more than that. So I remember someone was like, oh, well, you could get like a couple bags of heroin for get 2 bags of heroin for like $10. And they're like, and you'll be high for like a couple hours, you know? And I was like, well, all right, I might as well just do that, you know? And it started with the sniffing it. Then the sniffing it became shooting it, you know? And then I remember I was shooting cocaine and heroin at the same time, which is called the speedball.
Yeah, I heard about that before. I heard about that.
And, you know, it was all over from there, man. Once you start shooting it, you'll never go back to sniffing it because of the feeling, you know? It just was all over from there, you know?
So then once you hit that bottom and you realize, all right, I gotta go, take me to that moment when you was like, I gotta go the other way. I'm changing now.
Well, you know, it got there. I was just like, I was tired of hurting my family and hurting myself, you know, and I was tired of doing nothing with my life. And I was just ready to change, man. I was ready to do things differently, you know, and that's really was an eye-opening like moment for me. Like I just told myself like I didn't want to keep doing the same shit over and over again, man, and just thinking that things were going to be different. But they always winded up the same. I always winded up in rehabs, or I always winded up kicked out of my house, or I always winded up, you know, with family not even wanting to talk to me. You know? And that's just, you know, it just, I can't tell you exactly what it was. I could just tell you that I was just ready to change because I was just tired of living that miserable life of an addict, you know, where you just had to, like, where all I thought about was getting the next high and getting the next drink, you know, and I didn't care. I didn't care about who I had to hurt in order for that to happen.
I know when I first got sober, I suffered from post-acute withdrawal syndrome. So it took me about 18 months to 2 years for my brain to go back normal.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get comfortable being sober?
Probably like I would say like a year or so.
Mm.
I would say about a year, man. I remember I was coming off like a brick a day habit. So in Riverview, they didn't give me any medication, nothing.
Wow.
So I withdrew this time, cold turkey, nothing.
Mm.
So you could imagine, I was crying. I was in pain for days and days. And I remember I didn't sleep for months. I remember I didn't get a full night's sleep for about a year. I would wake up in nightmares. I would just like not be able to sleep. I would just wake up every hour, have nightmares. It was just I was just so used to always being high when I went to sleep, and that's what. So it wasn't really, it was sleeping, but it was more just kind of passing out,
I remember. I remember that. I remember getting out and first having to take trazodone at first, just so I could go to sleep. Then the dreams used to be too vivid off of that, so I got off of that quick. Like it wasn't. I was like, nah, this is too much. But I just remember actually getting a good night's sleep for the first time in a long time, because with alcohol, it just sedates you, it knocks you out, but you're not really asleep. Your brain is not getting the proper oxygen. You know what I'm saying? So, just that. And then when I got married with my wife I have now, when we got together, it was like I was still doing pause, so I had to really explain to her what was going on so she could understand, like how pause go, like my mood switches from day to day, then it switches from hour to hour, then it's minute to minute. So I used to come home and tell her like, yo, today I'm having a bad pause day. You know what I mean? Like, cause so just you see my mood changing. It's not personal. It's my brain trying to get back to like it was before. You know what I mean? And I had suffered from PTSD, so it was like I always felt like from the tragedy I went through. So I always felt like if my life was going good, there's something coming around that corner. You get what I'm saying? So I had to learn all that was a part of pause. And I was so happy when my brain went back to like it was, because I hadn't been this sober for this amount of time since like the age of 13 to 18, man.
I could relate to like you didn't really know, like you didn't know how to like you thought that like if it's too good, it's too good to be true type shit. You know what I mean? Like you thought that like if things were going good for a while, something had to go bad. You know what I mean? I can relate to that.
So now let's get to your sobriety. Did you do the steps or you went another route?
Yes, I did the steps.
What was your experience with doing the steps? Like, which ones really impact you the most? Like, take us through your step experience.
Yeah, when I went through the steps, I went through the steps with a sponsor. I went through the book. First we went through the book, then we went through the steps. He had me write everything down. And I would say, the biggest ones to me, I think, probably are step 4 and step 5.
I know.
You know what I mean? And I really needed to like sit there and take a look at like all the shit that I did. But for me, my experience is a little bit different than I think. I hear most people that say that like they couldn't get through it and this, that, and third. I actually like it helped me get through it because like I was able to get everything out there. You know what I mean? And it kind of like it helped me see like a new light. Like it helped me like understand what I did wrong and understand that like I can't do that again. You know what I mean? So like my experience was a little bit different, but
no, it wasn't that different than mine. When I did mine, I say it all the time. Like when I saw myself in step 4, I looked at it and was like, wow, you're terrible. Because I used to rationalize how I really was in my head. But now I can wrote everything down and I see myself in black and white. I can't lie no more. This is you. You know what I'm saying? Like this is like this is who you really are. And I saw myself, and it was humbling. Like, yo, I didn't know I was this bad. You know what I'm saying? The selfishness, the self-centeredness just was apparent, like very, very apparent. You know what I mean? And then what was your experience with 5?
You know, it was like, you know, when I went through the steps, and my experience with 5 is you know, I would say it was more of like a humbling experience, you know, for me to like sit there and for me to basically like, you know, for me to like, you know, go through everything, for me to understand what I did and the amount of people that I hurt. And, you know, and what was important to me, I think, is like the steps are in order for a reason.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I always thought like, all right, I'll come in, but I'll do like 1, 2, 3, 7, 9, you know what I'm saying? And like my sponsor was like, he's like, yeah, how's your way worked for you in the past? And I was like, not too good, you know? and you know, like when I came in, like I needed a guy that was going to tell me like, listen, don't waste my time. If you want to do, you know, if you want to work the program and want to go through the steps, I'll take you through, you know, but don't waste my time. He's like, because there are, you know, I could, you know, my time is very valuable and I could be helping somebody else that actually wants to help, you know, and that's that's the sponsor that I needed, man. Someone just to be hard on me.
Did y'all go right at it? Because I know some sponsors be telling people they got to wait like 90 days. They got to do this and do that to show that they ready. Yeah. Like, did y'all go right at it?
Yeah, he didn't say we needed to wait a certain period of time.
Yeah, I don't remember that neither.
Yeah, we went through the book for a few months, and then he said, all right, let's start going through the steps. I finished my steps in like, I think it was like a year or so, something like that. Within a year.
Yeah, and
it was within a year.
My step 5, that's when I had my spiritual awakening, and that's where the spirit came in me and where I found God at, man. Once I did mine, I did my 5 with down in Florida, and I was broken because I had to tell this kid, this young kid, that about everything, stuff I thought I was gonna take to the grave, and I felt like I felt this big, like this big when I was done. So all the ego and pride, everything I thought I was shattered. And now he like, we gotta pray. And then once we prayed, he was like, we got to pray for God to forgive you, for God to make you a better person, and for God to give you strength to forgive yourself. And then we prayed. And then he told me to go back to my room and sit for an hour. And when I went back to my room, I was walking in my room, and that's when I was walking, and this warm sensation just went through my body. And a voice came in my head and said, all you got to do is serve me, and you don't got to worry about nothing else. And it was like, for the first time in my life, I wanted to serve God. I'd never felt like that before. And I was like, yo, this is the feeling that I thought all that other stuff was going to give me for all of those years. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's like, now I'm living. Before I was just existing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, how did your amends go?
It went, you know, and you know, I had, you know, the step says, you know, make amends to that won't injure them or others, right?
Yeah, that's very important to know.
That's an important thing to remember, right? Because like we don't want to go up to somebody and tell them something that's going to hurt them, you know, like or tell them something that is like, you know, like you don't need to tell them every single little detail, you know, just apologize for what you did, you know, and move on. You know what I mean? And you just got, you know, listen, they might not forgive you for a month, a year, ever, but the point of the step is for you to free your own self, right? That's the whole point of it. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's the whole point of it. For you to free your own self.
You know? The toughest ones for me were the ones that people I had resentments towards, and I had to apologize for my part I played in the relationship. Those were tough.
Because
tough.
And they were tough because in the back of your head, you're like, well, you played a part in it too.
Yeah. But my sponsor like, you gotta go. Yeah, that was tough.
You gotta get, and I would say that too to my sponsor, and he'd be like, Mike, this is about your part. This is not about their part. Okay? Because I'm sure, that I'm sure that they hurt you in some ways, but this is about the ways that you hurt them. And that's what I needed to understand,
And one of the ones I did, and I talked about my father before, man, him super cool. That's my guy. I love him. And he's probably gonna see this or whatever. But one of the ones I had to make for him, we hadn't had a relationship in like most of my life. And so I had him at the top of my list, my resentment list. I thought it was gonna be a slam dunk. So I go to my sponsor, I'm like, yo, he right here. So, I'm like, man, he wasn't in my life for all these years. He did boom, 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 all of this different stuff. I'm breaking it down. I'm thinking I got a slam dunk, Mike. So my sponsor said, what did you do before, during, or after to make the situation worse? And then I said, yeah, in my 30s, he tried to get in my life and I gave him a hard time. So then my sponsor, I had to call my dad, the one that wasn't in my life for them years, and I had to apologize to him, bro. That was so humbling, but it helped me. It helped me. And he got a chance. Yeah, he got a chance to see a whole nother side of me, man. You know what I mean? And I already know you doing 12, man. You going out trying to help the alcoholic, man. You know what I'm saying? So how has sobriety affected your family now that you have?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, you know what I mean, Mike? Like my kids are 7 and 2, so they have a chance to never see me drink or get high, and that's really, what it comes down to for me. And like my wife that I'm with now, she's seen me use for about 6 months, Mike. We've been together about a little over 9 years. So she's seen a little bit of, she's seen a little bit of what life was like for me, but like nothing like crazy. She only seen like a little glimpse of it, And so, I've been sober 98% of the time I've been with her, So,
Praise the Most High. That's dope, man.
So, you know what I mean, Mike? Like all I can do is just do the next right thing, on a daily basis. I go to meetings. I try to help people. I take commitments. I do things like this, because if someone's out there thinking that they can't do it, let me be the living proof that you can. You just got to do the next right thing, on a daily basis. Let me and Mike be the living proof that you can do this, and that, you see, because Mike worked with kids at New Hope, right? And I work in schools. I have other jobs and stuff that I do. And I'm sure Mike could attest to, we're not rich, you know what I mean?
Not at all.
But when I first came in, I always thought, Mike, that like I had to have like a certain amount of money in the bank and a certain car to feel like okay, and there are people in the program, and I'm sure you can attest to this, Mike. There are people in the program that are millionaires that are miserable. That are miserable. There are guys in the program that have 20 years that are miserable. Why? Because they don't work a good program. They don't. They just kind of come to meetings whenever they feel like it. They don't. They're still. They're still nasty to their wives. They're still nasty to their families. A guy I respect in the program says, "You want to know how I'm doing? Ask my wife." And that resonated. That resonated with me. He said that to me like years ago. And that resonated with me because basically what that's saying is you want to know how I'm doing? My wife will tell you how I'm doing.
Indeed.
Like you don't need me to tell you. My wife will tell you. And that really resonated with me also. So just doing the next right thing, on a daily basis is important for me.
How do you manage people, places, and things?
I just cut everything out of my life, man. I just cut all the people that that I used to use and get high with, I just stopped. I just had to cut ties with them, and I just focused on my family, focused on my jobs, focused on making money, focused on things that I wanted to do, goals that I wanted to have, and just be a normal, be a productive member of society, as they say, right, Mike? And some days, Mike, sometimes it gets to the point where I forget I even did drugs, Mike, because life just gets in the way. Life just gets in the way, and I just forget that I even was an addict, and then I snap back to reality in the moment and say that I am an addict, and I need to do these things, and because life gets in the way, you know what I mean? You have kids, you're married, you said, and you have other responsibilities, but what this program has taught me is I can't, be around AA. I need to be in AA. You know what I mean? Like, I can't make AA a part of my life. I need to make it my life. And that's what, like, people in the program with years and years of sobriety that I really respected their sobriety, that's what they told me. And that's what I've done for, a little over 9 years now.
What advice do you have for the person out there that's still suffering, man?
Give yourself a chance, just give yourself a chance, man. Put down the baseball bat, stop beating yourself up. If things are bad, and you think things are bad, trust me, man. If you think they can't get worse, they can. Because if you're breathing right now, things could get worse. I'm telling you, they can. I know people that have died and flatlined and come back to life and are in this program, that have been into rehabs, that have been to jails. I know people that have been locked up 20 years that come out and got sober in prison and came out and are living a productive life, So there's really no excuse, of people that don't think that they could do this. Like, you could do this. Like I just said in my story, like, the amount of rehabs I've been to, like, that's a lot of rehabs,
Yeah.
Like, for people to sit here and not think that they could do it. Like, you just listen to my story. Like, you could do it. You just have to really, this is going to be the hardest thing you're ever going to do. I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be easy, but you got to give yourself a chance. That's what my sponsor said. That really resonated with me because he's always like, oh, you go to rehab, but you would do this. You do this, but you wouldn't do that. He's like, you never actually gave yourself a chance. And when I sat there and thought about it, he was right. Like, I never just gave myself a chance. I just started doing everything that people told me to do. And my life got better little by little. My life's not perfect today. But
nobody's is. Yeah,
it's better than it was a little over 9 years ago. That much I can tell you. And in all the years of me coming to AA meetings, I don't know, 15 years, whatever it's been, I've never, ever, ever heard somebody say, I relapsed, things got better, and now I'm back in the program. 100%. Things always get worse.
100%. You're right about that.
If you think that you're going to go back out there and use drugs and drink and come back in the program and things are going to get better, I'm here to tell you that it's not. And I'm sure Mike can attest to that too. Everyone else out there watching this can attest to that too.
Indeed. Final question, Mike. What technique do you use when you're trying to talk to somebody that's close to you, like a friend or a family member that's struggling?
I'm not the type that's going to lecture somebody, and I'm going to just try to give them my advice, what I would do or what I did. I'm not going to tell them they should do this and they need to do that, because at the end of the day, they're going to do what they want to do regardless, right? Like, we can try to sit there and try to guide them the right way, but I'm just going to tell them what worked for me and let them know that I'll always be there for them if they need me.
Yeah, and I have to say, for that, that's the toughest part of this experience for me, is when I know people that's close to me, family, friends, or that's suffering, and I know for a fact that it ain't gonna hit them until it hit them. Yep. They're not gonna get it until they get it. You feel what I'm saying? and you got to see them, and you on the other side of this, and you like, yo, you just got to come over here. But you know that none of that is gonna matter, and to see that person, that's like the toughest, the toughest thing to go through in recovery.
You can plant the seed, Mike, but you can't make it grow. You know what I mean? Like you could plant it. You know, it's going to be their responsibility to water the flowers. You know, water the plant, whatever it is. You know? That's just my, that's the way I was taught. So.
Yeah, Mike, man, I want to thank you for coming on. Your energy, your insight, man, and
definitely,
it was a joy having you on, Mike, man. So
you too, Mike.
All right, man. I'll see you in the rooms, brother, man.
All right, Mike. We love you, man. Talk to you later.
I love you too, Mike.
All right, bro.
Yeah, that was Mike, man. Good guy. He hit me up wanting to come on, and he gave some good stuff, man. I want to thank you guys again for watching Soberheadz podcast one day at a time. Next week, we got a very special guest coming in. I've been trying to get her on for a while, so hopefully we could get this done next week. And then it should be a great show. Stay tuned for highlights of this episode. And also next week, I got a very special guest on the In the Spotlight Basketball podcast next week. Very, very special guest. And you guys enjoy the rest of your night. Shalom.